seems to be happening naturally now, that employers are doing their best to look after their staff in the meantime, whilst we're all just trying to survive this. And it would be so disappointing to see that conversation drop off just because life has gone back to its old version of normal.
Yeah, it would be such a waste as well.
Yeah, it would
be such a wasted opportunity.
It would. And yeah, it would be you'd be wasting so much talent as well. Like the amount of people with disabilities that would be so amazing at so many jobs and had that natural talent maybe before they got diagnosed or before anything, or they just have that talent, but they're never given a chance because employers aren't willing to make those adjustments. You're missing out on prime talent. You are missing out on incredible voices and hard work that these people are capable of.
Welcome to the Slut Drops Hurt podcast with me, Maisie.
And me, Beth. We are two fibro warriors intent on sharing perspectives and stories with the chronic illness community.
Expect real talk with a dash of humour thrown in as me and my favourite fibro friend tackle a range of topics.
Slut Drops Hurt. Yes, a rather cheeky name. It comes from our common realisation that as two divas with chronic illness, slut dropping in the club is way more challenging for us, as are many more things in life.
We hope by sharing our experiences with some of you, we can contribute positively to our Spoonie community.
So today's episode is Life in Lockdown, where we discuss everything to do with the lockdown in England from lockdown 1 through to 3. We discuss the great possibilities for change in the disabled community, and we talk about how difficult it's been to be locked in for so long and what we're looking forward to in the future.
This is part 1 of 2.
Are you ready?
Indeed. Yes. So we're talking about life in lockdown this week.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, we're talking about life in lockdown. Oh my God. Yeah. We are back in
life.
We're now in lockdown number 3 in England. It's been just about a month, but it feels so much longer.
Feels so much longer. Oh my goodness. Week 4, when that hit, I was like, this is never ending. It's never going to end. This is life now.
Yeah. And it's worse. It's winter. It's not fun.
Oh,
so I suppose the reason
bad.
we thought it'd be good to chat about this and we discussed doing this episode was just talking about good things about the pandemic, bad things about the pandemic, lockdown life in general, for anyone that needs to hear it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because I know
anyone who wants to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know you and me, from our own experiences and the amount we've been messaging throughout this entire time, lockdown has brought its own challenges that I didn't think were going to happen.
Yeah, and it's brought its own rewards too, in a much sort of bigger sense in terms of how the world's going to look once this is all over. It's looking pretty positive, especially for the disabled community and working. But the day-to-day is just rough.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. There are things that I missed that I miss now that I didn't realise that I can actually do. That I actually do with my time when we don't have a pandemic. And that's been weird. Yeah. So should we just dive into it then?
Yeah, let's go for it.
How are you finding working from home? Let's dive in with that one.
Oh, okay. It's interesting in the sense that I work best when my environment varies. So being in the office 5 days a week before all of this was too tough for me. And now working from home 5 days a week is also too tough for me. During that very brief lockdown intermission in November, October, whenever it was when we were allowed to go out and about, that was the perfect measurement for me, because I went into the office 2 days a week, which meant that I was scheduling my exercise to be on those days. So I was taking the walk to work and from work, and then my exercise was set for the week. But also the varying location, it made my brain work a bit better. But working from home constantly, it's so repetitive and it's just so boring.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel very similar about it actually. So I didn't realise going into this that I would prefer a mix. I always found office life very tough. I would be going in when I was going in all the time. Like I'd be like, oh, I can just do this from home. I'm hurting. You know, commutes take a lot of energy and hurt, and people hurt you without realizing they're hurting you, where they just brush past you slightly or something like that. So all those things about the world, I was like, by the time I got to work, I would always be on the back foot. I'd be like at so many spoons down, if you like, in energy.
Yeah, I remember you saying how inaccessible it was for you to get to work because of the pandemic and social distancing. They'd made all of your commute one way, so you ended up having to walk for what was it, like 20 minutes longer than you would have normally if the tube station was open as usual.
Yeah, so that was the worst thing about commuting in the pandemic. When the pandemic, commuting's hard anyway, but commuting when our office was still open in the pandemic was really hard, because there's only one way in, one way out. And I used to commute into Bank, which, if you don't know, in London, like for anyone listening, like in London, it's a very old station. It's not very accessible. There's lots of stairs, some escalators. There's no real lift system. I am shocked, by the way, that a station can still be this inaccessible in 2021. Come
Definitely.
on, like, world, can we get it together, please? Because come on, we should have come further than this. So yeah, I was hitting those frustrations as well. It was taking me 15 minutes to get out the station because I'd have to stop and break and then climb more stairs, because the way they'd arranged it, for those that don't know, in London, Bank and Monument Station are very close together. They interchange between each other underneath. So they were basically
but the walk between.
So they were letting people in through the top of Bank and out through Monument, which meant when I went back out through Monument, I also had to walk further to my office. It was absolute hell. So yeah, the commute got worse. So I always thought that working from home would be better for me. But I actually miss the social interactions of the office and routines of life. So actually just getting up and working in this space, like, it is accessible. There are so many ups to it, and I love it in so many ways. But I would love a few days in the office as well. That would suit me personally.
Definitely. I find productivity for myself goes up when there are those social interactions in the office occasionally, but I can get very people tired very quickly. So being in the office every day is really just not an option for me for many reasons. Like you say, like the commute and being physically in the office takes a lot of spoons, just getting there and getting home and then having to look after yourself by eating and showering. It's all too much to do 5 days a week. But now that, we're working from home 24/7, I'm thinking, my God, I'd love a break from my bedroom.
I had an interesting, so back in October with the job where I was commuting to Bank, we did break it up. So we did do one day in the office, one day out of the office, one day. So I was home 2 days of the week and in 3 days of the week. Those 3 days in the office, I have to admit, were still too much for me. So I don't know if I'm going to find the right balance at the end of all this. I'm sure I will. But it's also about working about activities. So I can imagine myself looking at, okay, what days in the office aren't as rigorous? Like, what days for me working aren't as rigorous? How can we balance? Because like you also, I would put my exercise in at specific times in my week. So because I was working from home one day, like on that day, the day before, I would come home, do my exercises, sleep, and then I know I wouldn't have to commute in the morning.
Yes, so this is it. You can spoon manage so much easier. And I found my sort of sweet spot kind of thing. So once the world is back to normal, I've discussed this with my employer already, is that I'm going to be in the office 2.5 days a week. So I'm quite literally splitting my week down the middle. I'll be in on a Monday, the whole day, and then a half day on Wednesday and the full day on Thursday. Which just means that, when I walk to work and back on Monday, it means that I have got Tuesday to recover, because I don't necessarily have to get in the shower. I don't have to put like skinny jeans or trousers on. I can just wear my trackies or leggings or whatever, and so on and so forth. So the next day is recovery, and then the same for Friday. And then I get the whole weekend to build myself back up to Monday, So that is my personal perfect balance, and I'm really pleased to know that that's what I'll be going back to. And I hope that there are lots of others out there who are having this conversation with their employer.
Do you think you'd have had that conversation without the pandemic?
It was actually already a discussion before the pandemic, but it was never put in place just yet. Because I've been with my job coming up to 2 years now. And the 6 months up to the pandemic, so from like September and then all the way through to February or whenever it was, time has no meaning anymore. My employers did notice that I was getting sent home a lot of afternoons because I was struggling too much every single day. So we were starting to have discussions about the feasibility of me working from home. And then obviously the pandemic hit and it just knocked it into place. So I think it made it happen a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And it made it essential. Whereas I think if the pandemic hadn't have happened, it would have taken a few more months to make it accessible and to make it reasonable for me. I think it would have taken way more conversations and a lot more meetings and a lot more stress, basically, to convince them that me working from home 2 to 3 days a week is a good idea.
So that's really interesting. Like, it's really awesome, by the way, that they were open to the idea in the first place. Because I know that
Definitely
a lot of people don't always have that. I mean, my job was very open to the idea, the one I'm in now. But I went to them mid-pandemic, so I can't really comment either way.
Yeah.
But I've had jobs before where the idea of working from home just didn't appeal to employers. Like, they just thought it was completely... No, it was like, no, you'll remove yourself from the team. No, it's not possible. It's disruptive to others. It's not quite manageable, or, you know, you get that feeling. It's such
bull.
Yeah, it is. Like, and I just think the main reason they were reacting that way is because they just don't trust you to do your work at home. Like,
yeah, I think that there is a massive aspect of that. And this is the thing, is that obviously being with my employer for as long as I have been, and they were with me during the whole diagnosis process, they knew I wasn't, you know, faking it to get out of work kind of thing. Like, I was forcing myself to work and they were forcing me home. So I think that that's probably what made them sort of so open to it, is that I'd kind of earned their trust. They knew it wasn't that I didn't want to work, it's that sometimes it was just too difficult. But the things that were making it difficult were things that we could work together to improve, which I think is what was so important about this relationship that I have with them, is that it's always been based off of this very almost personal level of truth as to how fibro affects me daily and long term and everything. I wouldn't share it if I wasn't comfortable and if I didn't, you know, if I didn't trust them to do the right thing with that knowledge.
So I was going to say, it sounds like there's a lot of level of trust in that relationship, which can be hard for people to find. Like, so that's really awesome that that's there.
Yeah, I think it would be different if I was diagnosed before starting there, but because they've seen me go through all of this and they've given me the time off for doctor's appointments and scans and tests and everything, and they've been so helpful throughout it all. But if I'd gone in already diagnosed, I think it would be a very different situation. I wouldn't have trusted them straight up. Do you know what I mean? Because I wouldn't know how they'd respond to somebody having a disability or what their thoughts were on people working from home. It wouldn't have been a natural conversation.
I still found that hard going into the job that I've just gone into. Like, and they were really good, but just having the confidence to even say, these are my accommodations, this is what I need. It's still awkward. But part of me had this thing in the back of my mind, as I was like, well, they can't really say this isn't going to work because they've been doing it for however many months. So it kind of helped me break down that own barrier for me actually getting to the point where I would ask. Because I don't think I would have done. I think I'd have wanted to prove myself first in this role, which would have been detrimental to my health, I think, in terms of pain management. And managing everything, and then go and ask for it. Like, there was a sense to prove myself first.
Yes, this is a big thing. I think a lot, I'm pretty sure this might be just a universal thing, but when you first start a job, you feel the need to hit the ground running, prove your worth, prove that you've earned this job, that you're the right person. And obviously, because it does, every new job, I don't know about outside of England, but every new job comes with a 3 to 6 month probation period where they can get rid of you for absolutely no reason.
It's terrifying.
But they don't have to have a reason to get rid of you in that 3 to 6 months, however long your contracted probation is. And if I was to work somewhere with a 6-month probation, I would work myself to the ground for 6 months. And then, the minute I'm out of probation, I show my true colors and I have to call in sick so many days a week and they're completely unprepared. I understand why that probation period is in place, but as someone who is disabled and needs adjustments, it adds a certain level of fear when you're not confident that the employer is willing to make adjustments for you, especially as someone entry level into a creative field, because you have to fight for that spot. You have to fight to even get an interview half the time. So the last thing you want to do is show that you're, to an able-bodied person, that you're unreliable in some way.
Yeah,
despite
definitely.
the disability not being unreliable, but as an employer, as an able-bodied employee, you might view it that way, and that's a huge fear.
It's one of the biggest things that makes inequality in the workplace happen without people realizing it's in their companies, because like they don't realize that this is the fear, this is the experience. Like even if you say you're a disability confident employer, are you actually making it a place where people can ask for their adjustments knowing that you won't hold it against them? Because that's the internal fear we have, because we have had that's the way society looks at us. It's been like that in history for so long. We can't just break down the barriers just because you're telling us you'll give us adjustments. It's trust, and it works both ways.
I saw a fantastic tweet, I think it was yesterday, that said, I don't care about your disability policies, I care about your disability practice.
Yes.
So you may have policies in place to look after disabled people, but each disability comes with different needs, different accessibility needs, and even you and I have the same condition and it affects us both totally differently. Yeah. So it's all well and good them having in place things like flexible working hours or work from home and stuff, but they need to be flexible policies that are put into practice.
Yeah, they can't just be black and white. Like,
no, there's no such thing.
Yeah, like you said, everyone's experience is so different. So I really hope that employers come out of this pandemic with a more open mind to basically just looking after people in general. Because I think the work from home thing, but also mixed with, we're all going through this big major event together as society, and we're all dealing with it in very different ways. Motivationally, with depression and things like that. I know people are experiencing some of these things for the first time and they were previously able and all fine. People are experiencing things for the first time, and I just hope that employers sort of heed that call of, okay, well, actually, what do I have in place to look after my workers, and will this change the way I look at my business? I hope it does. That's my hope.
I really hope so. I feel like I've been seeing a movement since this pandemic and lockdown started last year. I feel like there has been a massive shift in employers' mindsets, that it's more than just working from home. It's things like flexible hours. It's becoming much more modern and much more normal to have a conversation with somebody and say that my best working hours are not 9 till 6. My best working hours are 10 till 5 and then a couple of hours in the evening, like that. It seems to be happening naturally now that employers are doing their best to look after their staff in the meantime, whilst we're all just trying to survive this. And it would be so disappointing to see that conversation drop off just because life has gone back to its old version of normal.
Yeah, it would be such a waste as well.
Yeah, it would
be such a wasted opportunity.
You'd be wasting so much talent as well. Like the amount of people with disabilities that would be so amazing at so many jobs and had that natural talent maybe before they got diagnosed or before anything, or they just have that talent but they're never given a chance because employers aren't willing to make those adjustments. You're missing out on prime talent. You're missing out on incredible voices and hard work that these people are capable of because you're not willing to not see them every day.
And that's been a general annoyance for a long time. Like me and you are lucky in the sense that we can get into the office. There are people that just are looking for remote jobs because that's how they have to work. There are people that can't really do
people that have always had to work from home.
But they're bloody talented. Like,
Yeah.
they're bloody talented. And so what, just because they can't get into an office, you're not going to give them a chance to show their talent actually probably benefit you or not? Like, that just seems so backwards to me.
It does. And you know what? Something else, just moving on from employers specifically, something else I hope to see carry out after this pandemic is disability friendly shopping hours.
Yes, I have this on my notebook. Yes,
Yes.
it's such a good thing.
My only wish for it is that it's not at 7 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
My only wish is that they
Why?
make it in an afternoon or an evening.
Yeah.
That would be because people that are disabled do work as well.
Mm-hmm.
We do work, and I can't get to the shop at 7 in the morning because I start work at 8. Like, it's not feasible.
This is it. It's
but
so
I do
important.
hope that they carry that through, because I mean, not for me specifically, but I have seen people that use sort of mobility aids going online and sharing articles about how much easier and how accessible shopping has been for them since disability-friendly opening hours.
I agree. Like, I've used them a few times, especially like when the week's been bad, and like in lockdown 1 mainly more, when things were really rocky for me personally and fibro-wise. I did use them a bit, and they were just like a breath of fresh air. No one's barging you out of the way. No one's like, it's, staff are more attentive. But then I've also seen sunflowers more in shopping.
Yes, they've made a huge impact in the past year. Like, they are becoming universally recognized at last, and they've been around for years.
I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I have mixed feelings about it because the sunflower lanyard, as you and me have been using it for a long time, is just about making people aware that you have a hidden disability and there is something to be aware of there. I find them really useful. It's easier to ask for assistance. It's easier to have those conversations. I have mixed feelings about it in the pandemic. So it's great that, for me, people are seeing it more, and I can go into a supermarket and shop easily, and I feel like I can ask for things more. And
they're recognizing
people are aware. More people are aware of what it means. However, there has been a rise of people getting them, because obviously it's not something you need to prove your disability for, and using them to be mask exempt, which is difficult for me to swallow, because it's like, I believe there are people out there that are mask exempt. Don't get me wrong. I really do. I believe that there are reasons why, there may be some reasons why someone can't wear a mask. But there seems to be a rise of people just buying them. I don't know. That's the overall feeling I'm getting from the community, is like there seems to be this rise of it.
I get that. And do you know what? It's that sort of behavior that makes the disabled community look untrustworthy and like we're faking it. People like that who take advantage of wonderful schemes that are accessible schemes, but they use them for their own personal gain. It's not about them having a disability. It's not about them being mask exempt. They just don't want to wear one, and they've heard about this lanyard that proves, well, it doesn't prove anything, but what it does do is it makes sure no one comes and bothers you if you aren't wearing a mask, or you ask for assistance, or whatever it is you're looking for when you wear it. But that is always going to happen with things that are accessible for the disability community. There will always be people trying to take advantage and get personal gain from it, and it's not just with the disability community, that's just life in general.
I wish it wasn't the case. Like, you've got people, I was listening to the dreaded LBC yesterday and I was listening to a guy that had basically was talking about his sister had downloaded a fake mask exemption certificate from the internet and was using that just because she didn't want to wear one, and using a sunflower lanyard even though she's not disabled. And I was just like, shocking. But I was like, also, this is a really tricky situation, because I can't look at someone who is not wearing a mask and a sunflower lanyard and instantly assume that they're not disabled, because I will give you my faith that you are. It just makes people in the disability community more angry at able-bodied people. It does. It just makes us more angry.
It's because of the way it makes us look as well, because they are basically being a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? They are dressing themselves up to be disabled, to need help and extra accessibility needs. They are dressing themselves up like us people that they accuse of faking it,
Yeah.
So able-bodied are faking it and acting like somebody in our community. And as a community, we're so supportive. We're not going to go up to somebody and be like, can you
No, we don't. We dare not.
We have to trust them. But then when you see on social media that people are like, oh yeah, I figured out that I don't have to wear a mask if I have this. People are not going to believe me if I decide that I can't wear a mask today because it's too painful because of my condition. But so I've got my lanyard on. People are not going to believe me because they've seen this whole thing on social media, and because I look able-bodied, who would believe me?
Yeah,
It just paints us in such a bad light.
I could also use some very choice words about what it makes able-bodied people look like, capitalizing on something that actually is a lifeline to a lot of people, and a way to get out into the world. So yeah, I would like, dear able-bodied community, I would like less of this, please.
Yes.
So we can use it for what we want. But on the upside, linking it back to a positive, as I'll try, at least more people are becoming aware of the sunflower lanyards. And I think it's going to take a bit more education for people to understand it doesn't just mean that you're mask exempt. It means you have a disability, and that people wear them for various reasons. Yeah. So
I am pleased to see them becoming universally recognized. It's just, you're always going to get people taking advantage of something. That it's just, in a way, it's human nature to do something that benefits you and what you want. It's just a real shame, and it's a little bit sickening.
Yeah, it is
to see people doing it.
I mean, while we're still talking about the bad things, because I promise, guys, we will talk about some good things.
Yes, we will.
So we've gone on a bit of a rant. You felt any anger at the able-bodied throughout this whole process of pandemic?
I'm trying to think if there's a point I felt angry at anything in particular.
There's specific things that have made me a teeny bit angry, and has made me realise that as a disabled person, I still feel anger towards people that don't quite get my life or don't quite see what is needed. So for example, the lanyard is one. The main thing about working from home, when that started, I saw so many tweets of just people with disability that were just so angry that it took a pandemic for this to happen for them.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the kind of anger I'm talking about.
It is ridiculous that it's taken this long. And you know what, I've seen some other articles, especially during the first pandemic, when people were trying to be a bit more positive about it, and I was reading a lot of disability articles, or articles written by people with disabilities, talking about how this pandemic is the best thing that's ever happened to them, because it's made the world see what it's like to be disabled and to be housebound specifically.
Yeah.
And I know that obviously with a condition like fibro, you're not housebound all the time, but there are times that come with flares where you cannot get out of bed and you're bedbound for a couple of days, a week, can be months.
Yeah.
And there were these wonderful articles talking about how this pandemic is the best thing that's ever happened, because they can go out without fear. They know that if they go to a supermarket to get their weekly food shop, a wheelchair accessible space is going to be available for them because it's so quiet. And getting a food shop online last minute has become more accessible, because obviously you've got places like Deliveroo. I know they cost money, but they are now doing food shop deliveries. And there are so many ways of sustaining yourself from home now. And it has taken a pandemic and 3 lockdowns for it to get to a point where a person who is bed or housebound could actually live a pretty normal life.
Yeah. I tell you, the reason I asked the question is because I was reflecting on it, because we're now in lockdown 3. And I was thinking about my feelings in lockdown 1, and I actually had this excitement. I was like, oh, the world's becoming more suitable for me. And you know, that was exciting, right?
Yeah, it was.
And now I'm reflecting on it, and I'm just like, it's taken for the world to break and for people to be struck down by a virus. And unfortunately, there were some very bad consequences of that. It took that for the world to become more accessible, because there was a main need for it. Not because people needed it.
Because people were forced to.
Yeah, not because people needed it because they were disabled. People needed it on a wide scale to live their life. And I think it just got me thinking about, I was like, please God, if anyone is listening to this on a council or in government, or can you please just, going forward, think about designing the world for disability, because this is proof that when you design the world for disability, it benefits everyone.
It really does. I'm so with you, because the first lockdown it got difficult towards the end of it, don't get me wrong, because the mentality and the being stuck indoors side did get really difficult, especially because it was becoming summer, which are like my best months in terms of fibro, and I didn't want to miss them.
Yeah.
But the first lockdown was exciting. It really was, because it was like, oh, awesome. I get to work from home. I get to get my shopping delivered. I don't have to leave the house if I don't want to. Like, I'm allowed to go out for exercise once a day, and that is more than enough for me. And it became this really exciting, almost like turn point in employability. And it just proved that the world works so much better when you make everything accessible. You are completely right. And I am so with you on the anger in lockdown 3, because it's like, you watch, I always dread the worst. I always think the worst as well. My theory is that once the world opens back up, it's only going to take a year, maybe 2, for employers to forget that designing the world for disability is an advantage. I think they're going to forget, and it's going to be back to 9 to 6, very long working hours, Monday to Friday, no flexibility with the hours or days you work. You just have to work this because we're in a capitalist society that demands that you do this to be able to survive.
Yeah, I'm seeing it online now. No, but how can you not with disability, babe? Like, it's an issue. It's like one of those things, isn't it? Like, I'm seeing it online already. Like, people already facing that thing of employers want to pull me back into my office. There's a fear. I think there's a fear growing online about that it will just go back to the way it was.
And I think there's a very, very good chance it will, unless employers realize that what's happened over the past year. I think businesses that have survived in this past year owe their staff a deep debt of gratitude. So why not ask your employers? Why not ask the people that are making your money for you what would be best for them? Because ultimately, we have proved over the past year that flexible working hours and working from home are all completely doable. So why are we not bringing that into every day? It would not be disruptive for 5 people to be in the office 5 days a week, 9 to 5, because that's how they work best, and then a few people joining them. That's in no way disruptive. Yeah. In no way.
Especially with jobs you can do from home. Like, so yeah, it's interesting. That's why I asked the question, because I was like, I feel like there's a point coming where people like you and me might have to remind the world a bit more often that this is possible. Let's not go backwards. I don't know.
This is it. Thanks for listening to the Slut Drops Hurt podcast.
We promise it gets positive again. Join us for part 2, in which we discuss the brighter things lockdown has brought us, and I discuss my very personal journey with long COVID. Part 2 of the episode is available now on YouTube and your podcast streaming service.
Connect with us for news on our latest podcast projects and much more. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook and TikTok under the name Slut Drops Hurt.
For now, we are sending gentle hugs and wishing you all the spoons you need.